All right, look like everything is good. Make sure the audio is correct. What is that?
That was
Shaking a
me.
bottle.
Yep.
that
But
sounded so weird.
yeah, I'm actually pouring out a drink for my sponsors. So
Yeah.
I'm ready to
Okay.
go.
Y'all ready? All right. Good. All right. This is First and Framerates episode 142. The whole gang is here. I will be here, but I won't be here. I have a few things I have to take care of for the night, so I'm just doing the intro. DJ and Bills have all the topics. They the one came up with the topics. Everything is pretty much their episode. They're going to do everything, and they're going to run the show. So with that being said, I'm just going to give my quick intro. I am VF Baller. If you haven't listened to the podcast before, we do First and Frame Rates every Tuesday and Thursday. Also, we talk about sports and sports gaming. Not only that we do this live, we also do this on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Google Play. The last video I did really well as far as talking about NBA Live. I appreciate everybody who came through and gave some feedback. Plan on doing more videos like that because I've been slacking for a while. I do have another video in the can that kind of has nothing to do with those type of things, but I think you guys will find it interesting. Nevertheless, my weekend was great. Everything was good on my end. Just getting some home improvement things around the house, working on this outside lawn, yada yada yada, just basic stuff. As far as gaming, same old, nothing changed. So, with that being said, I'm going to let these two guys take control. I'm pretty sure they're going to give you guys a great show. A couple people already like the video on the podcast so far. That's great. And if you have any feedback, I'm pretty sure these guys are going to let you know how they feel about it. So, with that being said, I'm going to let you guys take over. And I guess I'll be back around the end of it. So, all right. Any one of y'all want to take over? Have at it.
All right. Bills, I've never heard you run a podcast before. And everyone's heard me run a podcast before. I had one years ago on my channel, so I'm gonna let Bills take the lead.
Yeah, so I mean, welcome everybody that comes weekly, and welcome to all the new listeners to First and Frame Rates podcast, which is me, DJ, and VF, who just dipped out because he has some things to do. Here we talk about sports gaming and we talk about sports, among other things. But yeah, I mean, it's been pretty uneventful, honestly, last couple of days for me. I've just kind of been doing the same thing I was doing last Thursday, just kind of trying to get the marketing and everything together, and doing a lot of things as far as my social media. But other than that, gaming, and I discovered a couple of indie games the past, I'll say 24 hours that are gonna really hold my time. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. How about you, DJ? How you been?
Yeah, weekend was pretty uneventful, just like yours. Let's see, I've been playing MLB The Show.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah. Ever since I upped the difficulty level, it's been more engaging than ever before. So I definitely am enjoying my time. I'm definitely interested in those indie games. I did get a chance to check those out, the ones that you mentioned, especially the This Is the Police.
Right.
And it's interesting, when I was watching the video for that game, somebody came across that same scenario that you did.
Right. Because, I mean, it's kind of a story, so there are certain parts that are probably going to be the same for most people.
Right.
And then there are other elements throughout the course of you being the police chief that you'll probably come across some unique ones. But that's like a main one that was playing out, because I know BB Resurrect told me about that same thing prior to me playing it. And him talking about it on Snapchat is really what got me to playing it, honestly.
Yeah, and then the other one, Snow Runners. I'm glad they tell you up front exactly what it is. It's a terrain simulator. I'm like, it says it in the description, because you know how, like, when you get games these days, and then when you have your gaming community YouTubers talk about it, they talk about walking simulator, climbing simulator, just to, backhand smack these games. I'm like, at least this game tells you out the bat. This is a terrain simulator. So you're basically, was it a trucking company, or you're doing various missions where you're tested on your skills on how you navigate terrain.
That seems like you're an independent contractor, right?
I think so. And it's pretty much you like operate through rain, sleet, snow. Well, I wouldn't say sleet. I'm just adding that in because
I mean, it's possible, I guess, right?
I guess so, but it is what it is. I'm like, I've seen gameplay of that, and the better your skills, it's like if you can read the terrain and you can figure out, and it's going to take some real driving skills. Like if you have to deal with not necessarily automatic, but if you operate a stick shift, if that's what your preference is, that's going to really be tested in a game like this. So
yeah, because we could just jump in that topic full fledged. I haven't bought the game yet. I'm gonna buy it, but I was just watching gameplay this morning. Now, even though this guy's commentary is very, very annoying, quite frankly, at the same time, I was enjoying the gameplay because, God, I mean, the way they simulate each vehicle and its strengths and weaknesses and each terrain is amazing. It's like I've never seen anything like it, where you literally have to drive at a crawl pace in certain vehicles on, dirt paths, and they have puddles you can get stuck in. And then if the road is closed off, then you got to find a back road, and maybe your truck isn't quite built for off-road. So there's a lot of caveats, like as far as just the depth of the terrains that you'll be driving through. It kind of reminds me of the reason I like it. I was a big Ice Road Trucker fan. I watched that show a lot, and I was always interested to see just how they were going to combat all the different weather situations that they got into, and just the width of the truck, knowing the width of the truck and all their experience. It was interesting to me because when I was younger, I wanted to be a truck driver.
Right.
So this game's perfect. I don't know how long it is, but it seems dope. It definitely seems dope.
It seemed like also what's part of it is the fact that you can reveal parts of the map. So you're going to explore at some point just to come across different missions, jobs. You can customize your vehicles, which I'm like, so, I think as you can customize to the point where you can change the bumper. Obviously, you can change the tires. The types of vehicles. There was one mission I saw where you have a tractor trailer that you have to haul. So, that's kind of interesting.
Right. It gets harder as you go along because the first mission seems, kind of like a tutorial in a way.
And then on top of that, like I said, you have your weather effects. I haven't seen a mission with the. Oh no, I've seen one mission transition from dry to it's started to rain. So it almost kind of reminds me of the transitions in weather you would see in Drive Club.
Yeah, because the walkthrough I saw, he was playing, and he had just picked up this this truck that you carry lumber with, and he realized that the road was closed because, he thought he was clean sailing. Boom, going to be on the road, not going to have to deal with any dirt, mud. Then he remembers, oh, crap, it's closed. So then that's when it kind of, like, it was all bad from there because then it's like he realizes that he has to go down the dirt road. It starts raining. You can see the mud start to form. Like, it's not just dirt at that point. It's literally
like
mud.
It just cakes up.
And it was a gradual rain, right? And then it picked up and picked up. So it's going to be interesting because I'm going to play the hell out of that game. I really am. I'm going to play a lot of it.
See, the funny thing about that game is I wonder, can you switch your viewpoints? Because the view I kept seeing was the.
You mean like cockpit cam, right?
Yeah.
He probably. I feel like the person that I was watching probably just stayed on that one. But yeah, it would be dope to kind of do see the inside of the truck, right?
Yeah, because that'll be the type that if VF, he definitely likes the racing wheel.
I think he'd be right at home with that.
Well, yeah, that's what he does.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like, I feel like
I'm about to say, yeah.
I would love his review to see how close to, excuse me, reality it is, because obviously he does it for a living. So it'd be interesting to see his perspective of it.
Yeah. So, all right. So when it comes to indie games, like I said, we were just talking about SnowRunners. Just my overall view about indie games is that they definitely have emerged in the last generation, which is kind of odd because you would think your big time studios would be the ones that would shine, the brightest when you have graphical upgrades, performance upgrades, and whatnot. But it seems like those type of games have been the most disappointing. People are expecting like the stars and the moons from these games, and then they get nothing. But you get an indie studio, you're not really expecting much, and then pow, they get you with some interesting gameplay. Like we were just talking about SnowRunners, with the fact that they're simulating different environments, different atmospheres as far as trucking is concerned. This is the police giving you like a story mode, but it's also a simulation mode where it's like roster management. I guess roster management. They literally there's a sequel to that game too. They literally tell you in the description, is it this? Is it this? Like they give you different types of simulations. It was like it's all of them.
Right.
So
yeah, I mean, just for me, the first indie game I really sunk my teeth into was Firewatch. And I remember it's just, it starts out really slow. You're a camp counselor. It seems like nothing. And then slowly but surely the story builds and you're like, this is a really good story. And, I haven't really played indie games much, or I should say I hadn't prior to these next gen consoles. But Firewatch was when I was like, yeah, I really need to start giving more of these games. Like, I think Limbo technically counts as one, right?
Yes, it does.
So I actually named a song after it. That's how much I admired that game. Because the thing about these indie games, they don't have the handcuffs, they don't have the training wheels that these big companies have as far as improving the game. If they want to improve the game, then they can just do it without having to jump through any hoops. If that's really what they want to do, they can do it. As long as they have the resources, as long as they have the money, they'll do it. The issue is you got the big companies like Ubisoft who show you one thing at E3
and give you a complete
different thing by the time you get it. And then you expect the next iteration to be better, and it's worse. And they don't improve upon what they did, the few things that they did right. But it's like, for example, This Is the Police, like you said. It's so immersive, it's so deep. There's so many layers to it, and it's a simulation, and you can tell that that's what they're going for, and they're unapologetic about it, which is another thing. A lot of these big companies try to tiptoe around simulation, whether it's a simulation shooter or a simulation sports game. They try to tiptoe around it. They give you certain elements, but they don't give you the whole thing. And with these indie developers, they try to find their niche, and they try to get their niche crowd that they'll satisfy, and they'll stick to that. And if other people come and play it, then great. But they're not going to try to branch out of what they are as a game, as a developer, to bring in more people. They're just not going to do that.
Yeah, and then let's see. There were other indie studios that tried to step up to the big leagues. The main one I'm talking about is Hello Games. With their game No Man's Sky. Now, Sean Murray definitely failed initially when this game came out, because the big talk was that this game was going to have everything you can imagine. Not only was it going to be like an endless universe, but it's going to have dinosaurs and stuff like that. And then when the game came out, it absolutely had none of that in there. It had the endless universe, but you didn't know what the hell was going on. You were just traveling for no reason. Now, obviously, they made up for it, and now the game is probably one of the best indie games that's out there. I'm not going to say ever seen, because obviously there are some indie games that Limbo being one of them had a great story.
And then they had a sequel. What was it called? Inside, I think.
I think so. Yeah.
So I haven't played that one yet. That one looks even crazier than the first one.
Mm-hmm. So VF talking about I'm not on this episode, but he chimes in.
he probably has on the background, but
well, yeah, he has to definitely check just to make sure he comes in at the end.
I was gonna say Insurgency. Speaking of Insurgency,
right?
I was browsing some games today. Insurgency is going to be coming out in August on consoles. So they finally set a date you can pre-order it. So that's gonna be pretty dope.
I don't know why they're waiting until August. They must. I'm like, everybody's in-house inside their homes now.
Right. I mean, by the time they're playing a dangerous game, in my opinion, because knowing like the time of year that a lot of shooters release, and then you're gonna release it in August, which is around the time where sports games. Yeah, it's like, I don't know. You might be right. I mean, there's not really a lot of big releases between now and I would say September or August. There's not many, so
right.
I don't know.
And then, not to mention, we left off too involving football with Axis Football and Maximum Football.
Yep.
So you had those two studios step it up another notch in their games. Now,
how about Super Mega?
Yeah, that's right.
They're coming out tomorrow. Which, you know, as an indie game, once again, you can do certain things like they're going to come out on a Wednesday, which is very unique.
Yeah, I was looking at that. I looked at my watch real quick. I was like, wait a minute, normally it's either Tuesday or Friday release, but Wednesday? That is interesting.
Yeah, I was confused because, I looked today and I was like, oh, I get to play it today. And it's like, no, it's going to be May 13th. So, I'm excited because I can't play MLB The Show.
Well, next year, next year you'll be able to play.
Well, I mean, I could always get a PS5, which I'm still on the fence about whichever one. But I mean, I know it's going to be multi-platform, right? So
right now, everybody should just wait. Like that whole thing with PS5 and Xbox.
You know what? That's another topic we need to talk about. We're gonna get to that. in a little bit. Okay, King David said, I wouldn't include The Witcher 3 in that list. CD Projekt Red is part of a program from the Polish government, if I recall. Yep. So, I mean, okay, he also said the Super Mega Baseball games are great at almost what somebody would make a football game. Yeah, I mean, a football game would definitely be welcomed. Yeah, but I kind of hope 2K goes with, semi-realistic player models. So it's kind of like NFL Street.
Well, they kind of have to tote that line because the semantics game that EA will play, like, they got realistic player models. That's simulation. Nope, we got the exclusivity over that.
Yeah, well, let me tell you something. The deep safety play will be better in the arcade game in 2K. What we see in Madden sometimes is definitely 2K8. But
another thing about Super Mega Baseball that in the past was in certain games. But the fact in franchise mode, as players age, their bodies change, and I think the visual characteristics change. Like they start going gray to symbolize that they're getting older. So that's an interesting aspect. And they just add, this is the first year of their franchise mode. They've always had a season mode, but this is their first year franchise. So
they're coming with some major things in there that I'm not gonna name. A certain game is lacking. Like that whole thing about the how their stats decrease as they get older and the appearance of them growing a beard and things like that. Those are things that aren't in really any game, quite frankly.
Nope.
And then you have the scouting, and I think it's interesting what they did. They don't really have trades, but you can sign and release players, and it's kind of similar to how it works in real life. So there's some things that they're really adding in for it to be the first year of franchise for them. It's pretty good from what I've heard.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that a certain game doesn't want to say that they can put is enough into their franchise mode in 1 year, but Super Mega Baseball looks like they got a lot.
And look how excited their fans are for an offline franchise mode. Yet this game that we're not going to mention claims that people are much more into the other modes, despite the outcry for franchise improvements. But
yeah.
Let's get to Real Football Gamers question real quick. So I have one question before I go. NBA 2K14, NBA 2K16. I have NBA 2K14 because I love the gameplay and graphics footage, but have been hearing 2K16 is a step ahead on every level except graphics. I'll let you take that one first.
I really didn't like 2K16 for some reason. It seemed like 16 as a whole between 2K and Live just didn't impress me as much. It's funny that he skipped 2K15, which I thought was the best out of all of them, especially involving player movement. And I do have a series from 2K15 where I went through my league, and you look at the player movement there, and it's funny. It's that people were complaining about how players were moving, how the shots were not as realistic, and you look at the game right now, it's just like, I beg to say that 2K15 at the time, even right now, would have better player movement.
Was 2K15 the first year they had the roster, the rotation timeline, or did they add that later?
I think that was 16.
Okay.
Because I remember doing a video, and I think it was based on 16, which might have added got a lot of views. That and a certain other game's injury slider with no marketing team, no advertisement, and only 300 and some subs. How's that for output?
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
And it was 21Ks, by the way. That's 21K.
But
300 subscribers. So
I would say I don't know, man. 2K14 was good. Like, there were a lot of things in 2K14 that still haven't really been replicated.
Visually, I would say it hasn't been replicated, because I'm like, for a game to just, that game told you visually, this is a next-gen game.
The lighting and the facial expressions from the players.
And wasn't that commercial with LeBron and his player avatar in the game talking?
Yeah.
I'm like, and it's funny because it brought back something that 2K had done in ESPN 2K5, because everybody remembers the player interviews after the game, even though they were like generic voices. But this one, it was like 2K brought it back and added their own oomph by putting specific players, and they've kept it going ever since. I'm glad they haven't dropped that aspect. They've added in coaches that speak. You hear the coaches at halftime. Live was doing that for a little bit. So, I mean.
Yeah, because 2K16, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't that the one where everybody was like crazy skinny?
Yes.
2K14 had a lot of different body types.
Yeah, there were people starving.
I'm like, everybody. It made no sense. So yeah, the indie games thing, I would definitely, whatever your interests are that you would probably go to a AAA title for, I would definitely look and see if there are any indie titles, because these indie devs they're putting in work. So anybody check out American Fugitive? It looks like it could be fun. I'll look it up though.
Yeah, I definitely need to see what that's about, because I never even heard about it until you brought it up today.
Right.
So let's see. Let me see what else is in the chat. We'll probably see something we missed. Ravens Nation earlier said Escape from Tarkov is an indie game, and he's correct. That, my friends, is a good survival game to play in. It's in the mold of DayZ, but I don't think it has the zombies as much, and you're more likely to run into other players than you would in DayZ. And it's funny because I talk about DayZ. When that came out on consoles, I was on it heavy for a little bit, and then I literally just dropped the game
They made that game seem like that was going to be like the end all be all for zombie shooters.
Well, there was another game that was supposed to come out, Survive the Nights. It's out on early access, but the whole early access program. That's another thing about indie games, especially on PC. These early access games, these games stay on early access for a long time. Right now, from as far as games that people know about, Star Citizen is still in early access from what I recall. They've been in early access ever since 2015?
It's been a while.
And yeah, I'm just like, look, either you're going to release as a full game or not. Oh, also some other games, Astroneer. I was playing that for a little bit. That was the good one, and that's on Xbox, so you can actually get that because they actually went from early access. It's a full game now. It's full release. It did its full release last year, I believe.
Yeah, I'll definitely look into that.
Yeah, that's like space exploration and resource management type of indie game.
So talking about this, let's get into let's jump into whatchamacallit. Let's jump into these next gen consoles because there was some big news that came out about Assassin's Creed today. It didn't make a lot of people very happy. They're saying that once again, the minimum will be 30 frames per second.
That's terrible.
It's like, how many generations do we have to wait to get every game locked at 60 frames minimum? I don't get it. I do not get it.
I sat there and I thought about it. And it's one of those things where people are just more caught up in visuals. And the companies are reacting. I'm not, taking the blame away from these companies because they have a duty to make sure that these games perform well.
Yep.
Not just visually, but also, frames per second wise. You want the smoothest gameplay possible. And I remember playing games at 60 frames per second, almost that was the minimum on Sega Dreamcast.
Right.
So I often ask this question, where did we get away from 60 frames per second being the standard from the Sega Dreamcast? And the answer is pretty much people are getting caught up in the visuals. They want detail. I'm like, people like Hard 8 Times, detail. I want to see this detail. And not saying that they don't like performance. You just hear more talk and more, the audience is bigger for visuals, graphic fidelity, 4K, 8K, all these visuals that, right now, if you have a gaming PC and a fairly good rig, you can go 4K, 60 frames per second with no problem. But for these consoles, I feel like the consumers have cried too much about graphic fidelity, details, and have completely gone silent on the performance aspect of it. Smooth gameplay. They want better visuals over smooth gameplay. So, me going into this generation, it's like for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, it's like minimum 30 frames per second. You couldn't even get 4K consistent on the last gen. Let's get 60 consistent and let's lower the resolution. Like King David Creates, he put out there, said the PC space sweet spot at the moment is actually 1440p, 144 I guess hertz. And that's true. And that's where the console should aim for. If you if you play Madden 20 or any of the Maddens on PS4 Pro, If you drop the resolution down to 1080p, pretty much most of the game runs either a little bit below 60, at 60. It kind of jutters back and forth depending on which console you play. But if you drop the resolution, you're getting 60 frames per second for most of the time, from cutscenes to actual gameplay. Obviously, if you have it on 4K, it's 30 frames per second or a little bit higher on the cutscenes and 60 frames or a little bit below that on the gameplay. MLB The Show, which is a very demanding game. I feel like my PS4 Pro keeps acting like it's going to take off.
Right.
But within the game itself, you can have it on better visuals, which will make it 4K, but run at 30 to maybe 40 frames per second. Sometimes it'll dip below 30, which is, for a baseball game, we already talked about an issue about the ball going through the bat and the difference between the frame showing the ball going through the bat and the frame skipping the ball going through the bat. And I actually have video to prove that. So we need 60 frames per second as the minimum. No one should get this game. No one should get a console until they figure that out.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be interesting because, you know, a lot of people just, they don't care about frames per second, but I mean, you can notice a clear difference between like NBA 2K20 and, actually, I mean, I would say, yeah, NBA 2K20 and Madden would be the best example. NBA 2K20 will run 60 frames per second pretty much all the time. That's 4K or 1080, it doesn't matter. Like, but a lot of these other games are struggling. You would think they would have had it figured out with these next gen consoles, but apparently not.
I think with the shooters, it's more apparent that the frames per second, because I can't believe there's even a debate about this. Obviously, the higher frames per second you have, the better you can see movement. The smoother the gameplay. Like if you want to track enemy movements in a first-person shooter, if it's at 30 frames per second, yeah, you're gonna have a rough time tracking people move. But if you have it like at 60, obviously that's gonna be better. And then obviously above 60, some people have gotten it to like 144, have gotten it to like 250 frames per second. That's obviously steady movement, almost lifelike almost. I think when trying to figure out visually, see, this is another question I've always had. And I look at my own vision. What am I tracking in real life? It's not anything higher than, to me, I may have to do more research, but I feel like my eyes visually, and the human eye can track maybe 60 frames per second. Like if I look at it, maybe 60, maybe a little bit higher. So if I'm looking at a TV, 200, anything above 60, it's going to appear weird as hell visually. But it obviously is smoother gameplay.
Because I mean, I looked this up a while ago. Technically the human eye can detect 1,000 frames per second, so they claim.
Okay, that's what I always wanted to know. Okay, so I'm glad that's cleared out, because I always, when I'm looking at something, the test is I'll wave my hand in front of my face, and what was I able to catch from it? Now, variables from that, we're talking like we're scientists here. The variables from that is that, okay, how good is my vision in the first place? I have 20/30 vision in both eyes, so there. That's a one way you can look at it. Some people, they're 20/20, so they'll probably see more then and there. Some people have like 20/10, which is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that the human eye would probably top off around about 100, 120, like the average person.
See, that's what I was thinking around there. At least the vision, your human eye would double what games are trying to get as a standard, which is 60 frames per second.
At that point, you wouldn't be able to like even appreciate like what you're seeing.
See, and then it leads to the visual aspect. How much resolution can the eyes pick up? Because everybody's like, I need more graphics, I need more visual fidelity. And it's like, look, if you obviously you can tell the difference between 1080 and 1440p, and also obviously 4K. But do you need 4K right now? Because these consoles are struggling. We're struggling this past gen to give you 4K.
I'll be honest, I don't have a 4K TV currently in my room. I've been playing on my TV. It's a Vizio. It's just a regular HD TV. I wouldn't say I need 4K, but fuck, it's nice, man. It's I mean, I like it. So I'm not gonna downplay 4K, but I would say anybody who doesn't care about 60 frames per second probably hasn't either played 60 frames per second and gone to a game that was 30 frames per second, or they just haven't played a game at 60 frames per second, period.
Well, I remember the biggest jump for me was playing Battlefield 4. Now, and this is when the PS4, just the regular PS4 that jumped from the 360 to the PS4 playing, I think the last Battlefield game I played was Battlefield 3. I didn't buy Battlefield 4 for the 360. I went, got my PS4 and had Battlefield 4. And then to go from 30 to 60, now obviously PC was already doing 60 or plus with Battlefield. But to go from 30 frames per second in a shooter to 60 was crazy. My eyes had to do a lot of adjusting.
It's definitely different. It's definitely different. So it's going to be interesting to see what these other companies do, because Microsoft has already said they want the standard to be 4K and anywhere from 60 to 120 frames per second. So.
And see, the other thing somebody brought up ray tracing, because that's another visual fidelity type graphics improvement. And I don't know if consoles, I'm like, this is going to be added into the whole equation for these next gen consoles. So I'm like, they were barely doing 4K. Now you're going to add ray tracing, and some games they're going to take up to a 30 frames per second hit. I mean, so it's like, is it worth it for the extra lighting?
It's like I said last week. If the graphics for the rest of time topped out around what's in Red Dead Redemption 2, I'll be fine with it. I think the game runs at 60 frames per second. It's a fucking gorgeous game. So, yeah, I'm fine with the resolution topping out at what I've seen in Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah, David Craze is saying ray tracing is still heavily taxing even on PC. So,
I mean, there are advantages to HDR that I guess a lot of people haven't really noticed if they haven't played 4K. The whites are way whiter, the blacks are way blacker. That sounds really racist. But no, I mean the colors.
Like the whites are whiter when you go to West Virginia. The blacks are blacker when you go to DC,
Louisiana, right?
Yeah.
But no, it's just the graphics. It's definitely different, man. Like I played Gran Turismo on the PS4, and you know HDR is another thing that's very important if you're a graphics person. So, I mean, yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see what these companies do. I'm more so worried about the depth that we're going to get as far as the modes and things of that nature, especially in sports games. I'm not really worried too much about the role-playing games. More so worried about what jump Madden's going to make, and if any, and 2K and FIFA for sure. NHL, that's another one. Well, Tadal said we're supposed to get the PS5 revealed tomorrow.
Yeah, but who said it though? Because I saw a tweet from Kids Move, and he said it, and he's been spiteful as of late. So I heard there was an event that was supposed to be June 4th, by PlayStation. So I would be more inclined to think that will be on the 4th of June. Any type of reveal.
There's also a rumor that it's coming out in October. Apparently,
I heard Sony also they squashed that rumor.
Well,
so they denied it, but doesn't necessarily squash it. But they denied that October is the release date because somebody was using a jobs posting to put that out there. So,
not a claim that the Xbox Series X is going to be $100 cheaper than the PS5.
It's gonna depend on the which, because remember, Xbox is coming out with multiple consoles next generation. It ain't just gonna be one, so the price point is gonna be like 1, 2, or 3 ways.
I'll say this: if the PS4 price point is anything like what I'm saying, or I should say the PS5 price point is anything like what I'm seeing from the PS4 Pro right now on Amazon, yeah, Xbox might be less. Because right now, on Amazon, you're not gonna find a PS4 Pro for less than basically $500, which I think is utterly ridiculous. What another console around the corner?
This generation may be the generation where I just look at it and like, let me start getting my PC together.
Because this will be the first time that Xbox is less than the PS4 than PlayStation at launch, right?
I think so.
At least for the past, between the Pro and the Xbox One and PS4, definitely.
Right.
So, want to jump in the Last Dance?
Well, since we're still in video games, let's do the 2K sliders.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so just to let everybody know, we are scientists when it comes to these sliders. It's not just with 2K. We Bills and I, we both talk about it when it comes to NHL's franchise. Honestly, because these two games allow us to do these things.
Right.
There's not a lot of games.
Important part.
Right. I'm like, 2K goes a little further because you can share rosters. And I did tell you the truth. Bills is more roster oriented in 2K than I am. I'm like, he can tell you the ins and outs and what certain things affect. And thank you, developers at 2K, even though I feel like I've been frozen out from communicating with you guys. But thank you for giving us the tools to be able to, quickly edit these rosters to our liking, but also it also gives us an avenue to be critical of the roster creator, because that dude is sleeping on the job. He clearly is sleeping on the job. But with that being said, go right ahead, Bills.
Yeah. I mean, to your point, there are a lot of games that have basic sliders. And we hammer Madden a little bit on this show, but fuck, I mean, it's not our fault that every time we talk about something negative that's going on in gaming, Madden just applies. That's their fault. So once again, let's talk about them for a second, because their sliders are very basic.
Even taken away at an aspect of it, which is going to be very important when we talk about it later, because Bills and I have this. It's a disagreement, but it's nice to have this disagreement, because the fact that you have control over a certain slider set, or you have more control to control the game and make it what you want versus what Madden does. So Madden has gotten more basic for whatever reason they feel is necessary, which to me, Bills, and a lot of people, is unnecessary. Just give people the control to fix the game. That's what some people will say, but basically create the game that they envision, versus, because at the end of the day, even though Clint played football, let's be real, the man barely saw the field in the pros. So he learned a lot, but to apply it to a video game from a fourth string lineman, nah. I know somebody rashed him on it years ago, and I defended Clint on that. But at this point, it's past the time where this game should have got its act together a long time ago. But the hand of the suits, they do what they do.
So I'll start by talking about Madden sliders before we get to 2Ks because it's important that I kind of explain this.
Mm-hmm.
Peter Francis said Madden sliders are still a mystery as to how they work year to year. Unfortunately, they're not, because the thing is, the sliders are the same every year. It's just nobody's ever truly come out, well, other than me and a couple other people who make sliders, and told people what they mean. And EA is not going to come out and confirm it because they don't fucking know. We have to tell them half the time.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with pass accuracy. Pass accuracy, one would think, would just be how accurate a quarterback is, right?
Wrong. And what we mean is like, okay, how much is he gonna miss? Is he gonna miss high, maybe a little bit? Is it gonna be like a big miss?
Exactly.
Our starting quarterbacks, like your Tom Brady's, misses gonna be smaller or bigger according to how you adjust it?
Exactly. Unfortunately, there's way more than that because the thing is, okay, if you put the accuracy sky high, we're gonna get to that, Ravens Nation, don't worry. So if you put the accuracy sky high, you're gonna get the quarterback just throwing willy-nilly because he knows, it's almost like he knows that his slider is like crazy high.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll just start throwing into coverage because he's like, look, it doesn't matter if your coverage is there.
And he'll throw more deep passes too.
Way more deep passes. And he'll throw in the triple coverage, quadruple coverage. The guy can be covered. It doesn't matter. He'll throw into that coverage because it's almost like he knows that his accuracy is like maxed out.
And even your noodled arm quarterbacks will throw deeper because there's no fear.
They're going to throw on the run across their body. It's ridiculous. Now, the lower you have it, you're going to have some incompletions that you're going to scratch your head and say, ooh, that was a bit too inaccurate. But if you can find that happy medium, like for me, I think I have it on 6 right now.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is you have to figure out like what difficulty level you're going to play on. We're going to get into that. So I play on all Madden. So I said, I'm going to try this. I'm going to put the accuracy down to 1, and I'm going to work my way up. So 1, they were way too inaccurate. It was crazy. Their decision making was fine, but they were way too inaccurate. 2, same thing. 3, same thing. Once I got to 4, I started to see a lot of improvements. You started seeing quarterbacks put passes into the spots that they usually couldn't, right? Now, even though they weren't incompletions, you couldn't even physically throw the ball to those spots. And then 5, I think, is a sweet spot because 5, they really, at that point, they are realistically inaccurate. They will complete the passes that they should, but there are certain times where very difficult passes they'll miss. I think I have it on 6 because I think there were even a couple of incompletions on 5 that were a bit egregious. But yeah, pass accuracy takes a lot of things into account. Run blocking, let's go to pass blocking.
Mm-hmm.
So
I would say, just to jump in real quick, a few years ago we did zero theory.
Yes.
For a lot of sliders, and it worked a whole lot back then.
And then they put a patch out.
Yeah.
And they basically were like, oh, hey, the community is positively interacting? No, we can't have that. You can't know our game better than us.
Look, and
they ruined it.
Yeah, and the funny thing about that is that this will cover my end as far as run blocking and pass blocking. So what I felt was going on was that obviously the game at 50, in the middle at 50, is an animation overarching, Skynet, something Versus would say, would be Skynet. I felt like the less you had, the smaller that slider was, like get it down close to 0 as possible, the less Skynet had control, the more physics took over. Like I did this for tackling. I started with tackling before I went on to pass blocking. And
the tackling one was really interesting.
Oh yeah, you were seeing Madden 25, Madden 13 type stuff taking place when you drop that tackling slider to where you get the least amount of like what they call suction type animation tackles, because you would literally have to be as close as possible to point of making contact to affect the player, ball carrier, or whatever. So if you apply that same principle to run and pass blocking, what it was that instead of being sucked into a block or whatever, they would literally go off of contact or close proximity, which in turn would keep the linemen in their lanes as they're blocking, forming a more natural pocket.
Yeah.
So that was my theory as far as that. And same with run blocking, it was the same thing.
There was a lot of push that I didn't see prior to having it on zero, where the ends were really getting upfield, and it seemed like a realistic pocket, and it would break down like a realistic pocket.
Mm-hmm.
The issue became when this year they went, and now the pass rush is crazy, and now people are bitching about it. Because even on 50, the pass rush was crazy. So they, like, the other thing with the run blocking is I put the run blocking all the way up. See, I was noticing that the computer wasn't really gaining much traction as far as running the ball last year. That was my thing. And it was weird. They couldn't hold blocks. The running backs came out. They couldn't read. And I talked to DJ about this. I think part of it is the game speed, but yeah, the running backs couldn't read the holes they were supposed to run through.
Yeah, that's part of what we're going to talk about in a little bit. Game speed.
I was holding. It was crazy. I was holding top running backs with great lines to like negative yards for an entire game. It was ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
So the lower you put the run block, and believe it or not, more times than not, it actually works out for the line. It seems like they go a lot more on positioning, and ratings matter a lot more.
And then now, if you just one thing, if you do run like a zone blocking play, you'll get more of the natural cutback lanes that'll pop up.
Yep. Wide receiver catching. This one's an interesting one. Because this one seems like it literally is how often they catch the ball and how often they drop it. But I feel like the quarterback accuracy kind of goes with it. Like you can't tweak one without tweaking the other.
It does. And my theory has always been there's a range that goes up and down with that slider.
And it's sensitive.
Right. Because if you increase the wide receiver catching, it increases their range to either attempt to catch or possibly be suctioned into a catch. You'll probably, with that being said, you'll probably run into increased animations like them actually diving for a pass.
Yep.
And like, I remember over the years, just a side note, over the years, they've claimed they had so many animations for whatever was done on a football field. But how many of you guys in the chat have seen it? When's the last time anybody's seen a wide receiver dive for a ball? Like just playing with the game on default or whatever slider. When's the last time a wide receiver is and you don't expect every wide receiver to dive for a ball, make a diving catch or whatever. You see a lot of these jump grabs. You see a lot of those. That doesn't count. I'm talking about like laid out, like you can get your back of the end zone diving grabs, your possession type diving for catches.
I mean, look, I'm still waiting for the animations from 2K5 where the ball would kind of be out of range, but the DB would put a hand up and try to bat it away.
VF is like, I've seen it.
I mean,
Montana 16.
Those things don't happen. Yeah, he's tripping. But no, I mean, those are the things. Like, okay, they said they're going to take super linebackers away this year. And what they've done is they've bastardized the linebackers because now none of the middle linebackers, or really none of the linebackers at all, can jump for a fucking interception unless they have a special player trait.
But here's the thing. You will want linebackers to at least attempt for it.
That's what I'm saying.
And it's just like
this certain
now they don't even they just watch it sail over their heads.
That's what I'm saying, bro.
And remember,
Lance areas in cover 2 are fucking useless.
Yeah, remember during launch, you would get to the goal line, and the linebackers were completely useless.
Oh yeah,
in goal line situations.
It was awful. It was awful. So what I had to do was, like DJ said, I make rosters. I put every linebacker's catching. I can't make this up. I put every linebacker's catching up to an 80 and above, and they started going for those passes. And play ball in the air, you have to put that at aggressive. And then all of a sudden they start going after him, they bat him away. It's the dumbest fucking thing. It's crazy. So yeah, let's get to the pass coverage side of things, because this is where the zero theory really shined.
Yeah, because it seemed like that slider was in reverse.
Yep.
The lower the slider, the better the coverage was.
Yep. If you put the especially the reaction time, put the reaction time down to 0, all of a sudden you're not really seeing flat-footed DBs anymore. When the quarterback, takes off out of the pocket, you're seeing a lot better reactions from that. The closest defender, if he's not covering a receiver or a running back, he'll peel off and try to, tackle the quarterback as soon as possible. There are a lot of things that you see that on default you don't see. The issue is it only works on All Pro, because on All Madden, they basically turn your defenders into idiots when you put it at 0.
Yeah, that's what they call, what is it? The something of difficulty. I forgot the saying. I know Apex says something like that. It's like when you increase the difficulty, they have a hard time keeping it as a fair game. Like
how they display it, how they simulate it. It's not
Apex. If you're listening, please chime in, because you came up with the phrase. I'll give you that, and it's a perfect phrase when it comes to the degree of difficulty. The expression of difficulty in these games can be poor at times.
Yeah, I mean, so I say all that to say, all those sliders I just went over are just basic things, right? And you have to kind of guess what they mean. But 2K and NHL, we're going to get to, 2K has it where the sliders, they all have a clear meaning, most of them. And they impact just that one thing. So if you're adjusting pass accuracy, that's what is going to address pretty much, well, most of the time. It also kind of addresses the type of passes that they attempt, but shot blocking is shot blocking. It doesn't adjust anything else. It's shot blocking. Stealing is stealing. 3-point success is 3-point success. You know what I'm saying? It's pretty straightforward. But they have a lot of them. So I'll let DJ kind of explain his what he's noticed.
Okay, so me and Bill's talked about this earlier, and we have a disagreement here. And basically, it's a theory that I took from NHL, because anybody who watched that stream that I had just the other day, that was the result of the theory I had, and which was, and this involves player movement. So there's a thing called game speed in 2K that you can control. There's a slider for that. You have yours at 50, correct?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Okay, and I have mine at 70. Now, my theory is that game speed involves the speed of animations, not necessarily the player speed itself. And obviously the other side of it, there's player speed, which that could be adjusted in the individual CPU user sliders. So what I did was, in 2K, I have my game speed at 70. The player speed I kind of left alone, like acceleration, like that's way at the bottom. Overall, there's an acceleration slider earlier in the slider menu or list or whatnot. I turned that all the way down to 1 because in NHL, I turned the acceleration down all the way to 1. And what the game I saw and I was playing and I was experiencing felt more like NHL pacing, NHL like you see more like positioning, more strategy being used. Passing was a little bit better. Defense was a little bit better. So I applied that to NBA 2K20, and I feel like the players are moving a lot better and more or less the way they were moving in 2K15 than I was previously experiencing before. And that was me I also put the vertical slider at 1, which I think I was already on that tip about the vertical.
Yeah, that's 0.
Yeah, having that down, because with those sliders, you have your overarching Skynet sliders. With 2K, you already have individual tendencies. You already have individual. It's almost like each player is an individual AI with their own tendencies and whatever. So if I lessen the grip of Skynet, the more the individual players will show up according to. So having that vertical down to 1, your Zach LaVines, your LeBron James, whoever's a they're going to shine.
Mm-hmm.
So with acceleration in NHL, what I noticed was that the players that had better acceleration ratings and were speedsters, they shined. They shined where they needed to shine. And with hockey, it's definitely important because you really don't see acceleration until like a breakaway or there's a fight for a puck or a loose puck or whatever, when somebody has a chance to like knock it away. And a couple of times that happened in the stream.
Mm-hmm.
Also on defense, I felt like with the acceleration being at 50, which is more like arcade like, I felt like the computer would be at point, like you go from point A to point B. I felt like the computer would be at point B before it even had a chance to react. So that you could catch the defense off guard with the acceleration where it was. So if you have the acceleration at 1, it would be their speed that dictates whether they get to point B and be able to react to it at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, I'm looking at Peter Frenette. That's the problem in NHL speed at stock. Lack of difference in explosiveness. Yeah, there is a lot. But the thing is, here's another thing you also have to look at. When you play the game, you're playing from a top-down view. There's a difference in perceived speed from that top-down view to the true broadcast view. Because I played a game in true broadcast, the speed of the game is much different at ice level than it is from overhead. So because that stream, if you're looking at it, you're like, oh, the players are moving slow as dirt. Well, I need the stuff a little faster. Well, if you have it on true broadcast, you're going to see the actual speed of the game. Right. So, and we're playing NBA 2K from a broadcast view. So everything we're basing everything off is based off of what we see on TV. You know, we're not dealing with 2K camera, the cheap ass 2K camera.
So this is what I'll say.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm playing right now. I have it at 70. I have the acceleration at 1. The issue I'm seeing, is just the game itself. Like, even the physics when the ball hits the rim is just a bit too fast for me. And everything seems like it's just moving a little bit too fast. Now, if I put it down to like maybe 60, maybe perfect. But 70, it's like everything's moving like crazy speeds.
But this is where I think we're looking at two different things because you're focused on the game speed. My thing wasn't really with the game speed. I figured that out for myself. So I could concede with the way you look at it that the game speed may have been too fast.
Right.
My thing was the acceleration.
But that's the thing is, like, if I put it down to 1 and I keep it at 50, the players probably will be moving slow. But if I put it around 60, it might be perfect. It is interesting because obviously, yeah, you have the other ones, the other ratings below that that you could adjust. So
right,
this is, yeah.
Yeah, because remember, I was the one that was complaining about, oh, they feel like they're stuck in mud, and you're the one that was like, well, you can increase the overall acceleration. I was like, yeah, now they're not stuck in mud. But what I started seeing was that there was some sliding taking place.
Right.
I feel like with the decreased acceleration, and I saw this in NHL as well, you see more true step.
Yeah.
You see better foot planting. Because the animation is not in a hurry to get to the next animation phase.
And I think, it's like, I think in a game like 2K, having it at 1 with all those other slider adjustments that you can make might actually work. Because then there'll still be a separation between fast players and slow players.
Yeah, because all you're doing is controlling how explosive they are, how quick they get to the top end speed. That's the global.
Right. Yeah.
But individually, let the individual players shine. Don't let the game just control how fast players are going to be. I mean, not how fast, but how quickly they can get to their top speed.
Because then could be all the athleticism sliders could maybe go down to 1 at that point, right? Hell, they have speed. Well, speed I've put down before, and it's kind of weird. But, they have strength and.
See, I remember in the past I put strength down, and that was actually a good one because your players that had a high strength rating, those players won out. I'm like, of course, you have players that get in that takeover phase, and they have specific animations. When you see, that's another good thing about takeover. Those specific animations, that only take place during a takeover. They don't take place outside of it, and it's just like that's another level within itself. But just outside of that, having the strength down and letting the individual ratings, and with a game like 2K. Because they have the tendencies for these players, they have the individual ratings, they have so much detail going on, and this is where Bills shines in these rosters, especially for 2K, because he'll go in there and you look at these tendencies, and me and him were looking at the tendencies, and we're like,
oh god,
we're like comparing. Another phase of tendencies also spreads out to the team. Coaching, play styles, systems.
DJ, you might be hitting on something. So I put it down to, what do I have? I don't even remember what I have it on. Well, maybe 60. And when Clint Capella went to take off, it felt like a center trying to take off. It's like I had him in the triple threat,
right?
And I passed him the ball, and it's like I tried to explode out of there, but he can't. But it's like Westbrook. Well, and then it also affects the off ball too, because a lot of those jump shots the computer ends up getting off of those off ball screens, where it's like, why is my guy not there? It also affects that. So I mean, this actually, and it affects transition too, like you said. I mean, there's a lot of times you can catch the computer off guard because you have players that have no business being so explosive. Like they all end up being crazy explosive.
Like my main test is I have John Wall, and I'm still able to explode with him at certain moments. It really, when you slow down the acceleration, you definitely have to pick and choose when you do it. And it's kind of as if you mirror John Wall's actual career. Remember, that was his issue. He would always have it on, but he would choose the incorrect times to do it. It's like me reducing the acceleration to 1 is the equivalent to John Wall figuring out that, hey, stop and go, pick your spots, boom.
And see, that stop and go is something that you really couldn't use prior to this because the game itself
didn't have them.
Didn't really have those animations to plant and then immediately take off again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm thinking we're gonna keep it like that. It's actually
because that's the thing that it seemed like it was missing with the game on default was okay. I remember the big talk between 2K and Live was foot planting and being able to like use those animations and chain those animations. But if the animations are going too fast, sometimes, especially with the lag in the game this year, I'm like it just felt like the animation was going too slow.
It also affect closeouts, right?
Yeah. Because like I said, they take that plant to get out there, but they're not stuck in mud when they do it. They actually take the plant and they go.
Like going under a screen now, like you're not gonna get to that guy.
Yeah, you go under a screen, that's at your own risk. You better hope he can't shoot.
I noticed that just in a few seconds I just played. So yeah, I definitely like that. I put the speed down to 60. Probably gonna keep it like that. It's actually really nice. And of course, I mean, you all might experience something different based on the roster that you use.
And that's the other issue. God,
worms.
I'm gonna look at it from the team aspect, and especially historical teams.
Oh yeah,
it's inexcusable that you got you had, was it 94, 95 New York Knicks running the triangle. Like I kid you not, if you go into the default settings and you have to dig a little bit to find it, but you look at the
I think they did that on purpose, by the way.
Oh God. Yeah, and yeah, you got the Knicks running a triangle. We got the Bulls running something perimeter centric, and all the historic teams. Now, obviously, the teams that are more recent are going to play like the NBA it is today. But just all those other teams, the more mid-range, low post, more half-court setting type teams, they got them playing like these teams now, in which. No, that's not immersive basketball according to the historical team. Yeah, you have the players, you have their tendencies. Now, the funny thing is the play call for the Bulls, even though it's perimeter centric, it has triangle play calls. Right. So if they're not running freelance, then they will call a play and they will run the triangle, but they don't operate like they're running the triangles. And that's the problem, because when I changed that and made their system triangle, then you saw them just bring the ball up and then they started the triangle. Yep. I was like, here we go. This is it.
Another issue is like 2K, I can't remember a single team I've played prior to making my roster where there were teams that would just dump the ball in the post all game. On the default roster, they just don't have that. Oftentimes, you see a lot of perimeter players shining that have no business shining. And it's crazy. It's like before I went to edit that all-time Lakers roster, it was like Magic Johnson or bust. I'm like, you have Shaq and Wilt Chamberlain on the court. What are you doing? So these games in general, I think they kind of ignore these things and hope that we ignore them, hope we don't see them.
Not with myself and Bill's on the case. Nah, we're sniffing stuff up like bloodhounds.
Like we're straight up sim heads. And shit, I mean, Madden hasn't even put it in the game for us to dissect because we would be all over that football-wise. This is a football podcast, damn near.
Yeah, we are scientists when it comes to this. I'm like, we discuss this all the time. I mean, all the time. Even when one another doesn't feel like talking about it, we talk about it.
In NHL, it's been a long journey to figure out, like,
what's it? How do since 90? Since well, to say 90, you weren't even born yet. Since what? 2014?
2014.
Yeah, since NHL 14 on Xbox.
To the point now where this is going to go into my backlog of things that I kind of automatically do every time I boot up a game. It's like with 2K, I always adjust certain things just knowing that the game is kind of that's how it runs. Madden, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So this is going to go into my backlog of things with NHL. Is going to be like, all right, just put the acceleration down to 1.
And then for me, it just like I've done forum research. I had it. And mind you, I play NHL 20-minute periods.
Yeah.
And that's insane the way the game is made out the box. You can't do it and get realistic stats. I can. And that's from just doing the research. I'm humble enough to say that it's not all me. Like I said, I discuss it with Bills. We talk about it, but also go into the forums. And I forgot the guy's name that I participated in this forum, and we kind of did the same thing that me and Bills did. We were discussing, okay, well, if you change this here, then I think this will play better. This is what I was seeing. Like there was one setting that this cat had where I felt like, if you were a lower level defenseman, there was no way you was with low puck handling rating, there was no way you would capture the puck because the puck control rating was slotted was up too high. So I found out that the magic number was 70. So that way, at least your low level defenders could handle the puck, but they would be the ones that you don't want handling the puck half the time.
Right.
So it made the game playable. But then, like I said, I just woke up one day and was like, let me just turn the acceleration down. You have stuff like that. It just pop up when like it was like first thing. I'm like, wake up like, damn, what if I just turn the acceleration down?
Right.
See what happens. And that's where I got on this thing about 2K. I was like,
and the thing with these sliders, unfortunately, sometimes you have to try the extremes. Put some all the way up, put some all the way down.
Yep.
You start to see things way differently.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get into The Last Dance.
Oh boy.
Well, VF said, seriously, we do sliders probably better than anyone I know, especially on the sim level. I agree. I mean,
yeah,
especially the level of detail. We have conversations about this, like full-fledged conversations for.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I'm like, basically, you guys got a taste of it just now. I'm like, this is what we do when Bills had a PS4. When me and Bills would be on have PSN chats all the time about this. After the podcast, we all have discussions. Sometimes before the podcast. Even now, Facebook Messenger. Just whenever it just pops up. I'm like, it could be just do regular messaging or actual phone conversation.
And I tell folks all the time, I wish we didn't have to do this. Like, I wish, okay, like I'll give you an example. PES doesn't have any sliders. PES doesn't have one slider in their game, which is amazing. The level of gameplay, man. And speaking of what VF said, he said, I do NCAA, DJ got NHL, Bills got NBA, and we all do Madden.
Yep.
If you're gonna go and play NCAA 14, VF has some amazing sliders for that game.
Yep. We're the scientists of the communities. It's funny. You look at the sim community, there's activists, there's pacifists, and then there's us. We're scientists.
Right. It's like we had the activist trend.
And we were pacifists at one point, but then it was like, you know what? Nah, that's okay.
Right.
I'm like, and then you had the sellouts.
Oh God. But I mean, it's
and we were never sellouts. Just to let y'all know, we never went that way because that involves selling your soul to the devil or Joe Montana 16.
Yeah, y'all can go and check that. Y'all can go check the record books about that. Let's get into The Last Dance. I think it's gonna be an interesting conversation, as it always is. So
honestly, I wasn't looking forward to the first part of part 7 because I knew I was dreading this. They were going to talk about his father being murdered.
They talked about the murder, and then they got into the whole, the retirement.
See, this is the part when, because I know you were watching Money at the Bank and you wound up watching it later.
Yeah,
I got to that part about the retirement and the gambling. I was like, oh, I can't wait till he sees this, because you've been waiting for this.
So, oh God, where do I start? Okay,
oh boy, here we go.
Okay, here's my thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jordan had 3 rings, 3 finals appearances, 3 MVPs. He said he had no challenges left to conquer. And to me, I'm just like, that's bullshit. Like, bro, okay, you want to say Magic and Larry Bird didn't win 3 in a row? Fine. Okay, I'll give you that. But don't sit here and act like there wasn't a man named Bill Russell who won 9 titles in 11 years and say that you had no challenges. Bro, there was plenty of shit. At that time, he still technically was not the greatest basketball player of all time. He had an argument, but come on, man. I mean, so that's why when that idiot, what the hell was his name? Let me find it. Nick something. What the fuck was his name?
Talking about one of the current analysts, or
no, he was some dude that covered him back in the day. Mark Vancil. Okay. Mark Vancil claims he talked to Jordan the season before that, and Jordan said, if it wasn't for me trying to win 3 in a row, and the fact that, I'm playing the Olympics, I'd already be playing baseball. Okay? Jordan, out of his own mouth, said him and his dad were going back and forth about it before he won that 3rd title. So somebody's lying. Mark Vancil was full of shit. And then on top of that, he had the nerve to say, the NBA is going to sit down their most popular player and risk all this loss of revenue.
Oh, that was the guy. Yeah, because he was like, that's bullshit. And I was just like,
okay. Did you ever think about the fact that there have been other companies that have benefited from their most popular person being gone for a while? Like, for example, when Stone Cold broke his neck and The Rock.
I knew he was going to bring wrestling, because that's the most. Yeah. That's the most. It happens the most times in professional wrestling.
The NBA had to prepare for life without Michael Jordan. They did it at a time where it made sense for him to step away.
Yeah, there were new stars emerging. I'm like,
Shaq, the biggest one.
Right. And you're talking about, at that time, 93, you're talking about the old guard really stepping down. Like Charles Barkley was aging, and Dominique Wilkins. I'm like, shoot, Gerald Wilkins was in the league at this point. So it's just like, Dominique's about to go.
Retired. Magic had his situation with HIV, right?
Yeah, Reggie Miller was coming into his own.
Yeah. Penny, of course, like I said, Penny and Shaq were coming into their own. Olajuwon had been around, but now he gets, more into the centerfold, and the Jazz started to become more. There were opportunities for a lot of people in the league when Jordan stepped away.
And I think they also possibly had the vision that most leagues don't have when it comes to, like, okay, our fans tired of seeing the same team win over and over and over, because we saw what happened with the NBA just recently. Yeah. Like, when they're getting people, when people are just turned off by the fact it was like, it's Golden State and Cleveland again. Right. Oh boy, here we go. And then you see ratings boost for the NHL 2 years in a row. Yeah. You had the Caps win the Stanley Cup, and you had the St. Louis Blues win the Stanley Cup. And then in baseball, you have the Nationals win the World Series, and it's just like, and then even in the NFL, you had the Eagles won the Super Bowl. You mean to tell me that the NFL had better vision to have the Eagles win the Super Bowl over the Patriots?
Right. So I mean, come on, people. Like, if you want to say you don't believe it, that's one thing, but to act like it's completely out of the realm of possibility or something that doesn't make any sense, I think is utterly ridiculous.
And when I say that, because I know Pooh is like, no, the Eagles won it on bat. No, it's just general excitement for a matchup. I'm like, for me, when I looked at that Super Bowl, I was like, oh, this is gonna be a revenge game for the Eagles. They're looking for revenge, and they got their revenge. They got it against not just against the team, they got it against the very guy that put them down the first time. So it's just like they made the game-winning play on the guy that got them the last time. So it was one of those things. But overall, it was about the league parity, attracting people and getting people excited about a new matchup.
I mean, the world hates favorites. They hate favorites. They hate winners. People started out loving the Patriots. Oh my God, underdog story. They beat the Rams in the Super Bowl. Then the next Super Bowl, we beat the Panthers in one of the best Super Bowls ever. Oh my God, Patriots, yay. Then they beat the Eagles, and people were like, all right, we're starting to get tired of shit. Like, I'm sorry, like, we were with you, but fuck. I mean, come on. So, with Golden State, same thing. Motherfuckers started cheering for LeBron. For LeBron. And I'm not talking about the casuals, because most casual NBA fans, they'll cheer for LeBron. I mean, he still has, like, the highest selling jersey.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking hardcore LeBron haters. We're like, yo, fuck Golden State. That just shows people hate winners. So, I say all that to say, Chicago was getting to that point. They were getting to that point. All they needed was the perfect foe that was likable, and people got behind him, and Chicago was going to be public enemy number one. But before they could, Jordan retired.
Yep.
Which goes back to my point about, like, I can't see Jordan, like, his excuse, like, oh, I want to get out of the limelight. It's like, bro, you went and played baseball. You already said that you planned to play baseball. It wasn't the limelight, bro. It wasn't. And I'm not even going to get into the whole issue that I have about Jordan taking spots from people who were baseball players their entire life on that minor league roster, because we all know that was a money grab to even get him on the team in the first place. So I'm not even going to do that. But, you know, I mean, Jordan worked at it. I can commend him for that. I mean, he worked very hard at baseball. Very, very hard at baseball. As hard as he did at basketball.
You know what's funny?
Mm-hmm.
I remember when he first was going to play baseball, I remember the one person that did not like it at all was Randy Johnson. They asked him what he thought. He was like, sure, I'll throw him inside fastball, see how he likes that.
People don't like you coming in and especially skipping over people that Randy Johnson might have had some friends though, minor leaguers.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, they don't like you skipping a line.
Right.
And baseball is definitely not the sport to do that shit.
I'm just glad that he didn't do what some people would probably do in his situation. That is, you know, obviously he got the special treatment just because of who he is, but it was like he didn't want that special treatment, and he was treated as such. I'm like, he was treated as if he was a up and coming minor league player, which technically he was. And yeah, I know his initial issue was that he couldn't hit a curveball because he could hit a fastball. A lot of people can hit a fastball.
Right.
But and they said he started off one year, he was on a 13, 15 game hitting streak before they start throwing him breaking pitches.
He has amazing reflexes because obviously that comes from, I mean, basketball, hell, they'll try to throw an entry pass and he'll be able to jump and fucking intercept it, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Never really be able to see anybody do that these days. I mean, literally throw a pass that's a bullet right above his head, he jump up and catch it. So his reflexes were there. So, you know, they covered it. It was what it was. I would say I took more issue with the second episode.
Oh, I think that was the episode that Jordan was afraid of.
Yeah,
for it to come so late, it's almost like what you've been saying like this whole entire time about them propping him up to make him look a certain way, and now you can throw in this episode, and now it's been like he'll still be up here because now there's also more stuff that's propping him up in between the bullshit. Like,
yeah, okay, this is gonna be the first issue I take with Jordan himself. Well, actually, no. Okay, I'll take that back. The episode before that, he said he felt that he had a grudge against Sports Illustrated. I'm like, motherfucker, they don't gotta text you and tell you they're saying anything about you playing baseball. They're treating you like they treat every athlete. They're criticizing what you did and they don't think you should be playing baseball. For you to say they treated you unfairly is bullshit. To say they betrayed you is bullshit. They criticize you. You're not above reproach, bro. As much as people try to make it out to be like you are, that's the first issue I took with Jordan's documentary.
Now, just to be on the other side of that, don't you think Sports Illustrated also has some blame in that too? Because they're part of the reason why he was propped up in the first place, because they were right there with him propping him up.
But what I'm saying is, when they go against that, I can't say that they're not doing their jobs for. I mean, every writer's not going to walk to that same that same beat that everybody else is walking to.
But you got to admit, sports. I'm like, you'll see. You'll probably say this about a lot of media coverage about Michael Jordan. It's unbalanced.
It is. But what I'm saying is the reporter that I'm talking specifically on that reporter, if he chooses to go against that, then you can't make a blanket statement about the company and say, well, I'm betrayed. I feel betrayed. It's like, bro, I mean.
Yeah, but that writer does represent Sports Illustrated. Now, I'm not saying that writer had no right to write the article the way he wanted to. That's perfectly fine. I know, and understanding that MJ had a problem with it. That's the problem he'll just have to eat. But I understand him going after the company, though. I do understand him going after the organization.
I just think they treated him like every other athlete for once.
That's what I'm about to say. They finally did it.
And he's like, "Oh, what's up with this? I thought we were friends." It's like, nah, motherfucker. You left what made us money, and you went somewhere where you very well might tank, which he didn't, but had a chance of it.
Yeah, but they were still making money when he was playing baseball because they got to cover him still, just like everyone else.
But they didn't. But the only reason why is because they covered him in a light that wasn't so favorable at first. So it's almost like people were interested to see. Oh, I wonder what they're talking about. So that was the one issue, and then the other issue was that motherfucker crying at the end because people didn't agree with him being a cunt towards his teammates. I'm sorry, bro. Once again, you are an asshole. Like, fam, you're crying because you don't want to play that way. You don't have to play. Come on, fam. Come on. Fam.
Okay, I definitely have to be on the other side of this, only because my time in the military, I understood why I got yelled at. I understood why I was treated, not just me, but fellow airmen that went through basic training, how we were trained to be indoctrinated into a particular lifestyle. When he said that, I completely understood why he behaved the way he behaved. And he even said it. He was like, look, when I was first drafted by this organization, it was crap. It was nothing. They were losers. Whatever. Now, not saying he single-handedly turned that organization around, but what he was saying is that overall, the team got better, the expectations got higher, and since they were right on that cusp of winning championships, the expectation was like, okay, we got to continue to take the next step, but the expectations are still gonna climb. And if you were new to the team, I'm a type of person, like, on a team, if I'm on a team that's about to win a championship, I need to know, are you willing to do what's necessary to win a championship? Am I going to be able to depend on you when things get hot? Are you going to leave the kitchen, or are you going to stay and fight? I'm that type of person. I understood that with me going through basic training. They were testing me in basic training and other airmen that were like, okay, well, in order to be a part of his life, you gotta have to be willing to take the bullshit. I felt like Jordan, when he got to that point in his career, and when that team and that organization got to that point where they could expect players coming in to raise their game, raise their level to that expectations, to meet those expectations. Sometimes when you're a leader, the second thing that you prioritize is making friends, because the first thing is winning.
Yeah, but there's a fine line between making friends and being a complete cunt.
Like I said, you and I are on the opposite side on this, because of the fact that
no, that's not true, Peter Franon. That's definitely not true. He said the Bulls had a target on the back and had sustained excellence because of that leadership. No, that's not. It wasn't because of that leadership. It was because he was the best player in the NBA. They had one of the better front offices in the NBA that understood what pieces fit around him, and they had a coach that could easily handle personalities and make all that shit meld together so that it worked. That's why they had that target on their back. That dude, and it's just like Ravens Nation said, not every player has to be an asshole to be the best. He was a complete and utter asshole.
Okay. All right. So let's play this. Because there are different leadership types that can get the job done. Not every leader is going to be nice to you, is going to coddle you, or is going to be always supportive to get you to where you have to be. Some people will ride you and be mean and be nasty towards you to get the best out of you. Me, I've been a part of coaches leaning on me. I've been a part of coaches that have supported me, and been, nice about it. To me, I like a balance of the two, because I like constructive criticism. I'm like, if you're going to tear me down, be prepared to build me back up. I felt like Jordan was tear you down, you build yourself back up. But if you're able to build yourself back up, I know what you're capable of. Shoot, they nearly destroyed Tony Kukoc in the Olympics, him and Pippen, and Kukoc came back. And at that point, Jordan recognized this is a player that could play on the Bulls. But like he came to a realization at that point, I don't have a problem with the kid anymore, because he can fight back. And then the thing with Steve Kerr, he realized in Steve Kerr, oh, this guy fights back. Shoot, and then we talked about Robert Parrish. Parrish, at the last point of his career, he's looking at Jordan like, you ain't doing that shit to me. And
okay, but Jordan's like, Parrish had Robert Parrish's pedigree, though. Everybody can't just do that.
Yeah, but Steve Kerr didn't have Robert Parrish's pedigree either.
But Steve Kerr's one guy. Everybody's not built like that, and everybody shouldn't have to be built for their best player to be a complete cunt to them.
And at the same time, you have to think about the time period too. People, I'm just gonna say it. People were a lot tougher and able to handle personalities like that than they are now.
To them a lot more. It's called.
They had tougher skin.
The reason they had tougher skin is because they were around more cunts like Jordan.
It has nothing to do. Beat up Steve Kerr. They hit each other once, and that was it.
I'm not even talking about the Steve Kerr situation.
No, I'm not talking about you. No, I'm not talking about you. Daniel Daly was like, dude, beat up Steve Kerr. Like, no, they punched each other once, and Phil Jackson threw him out of practice.
Because my thing is, I just look at it. I mean, look, bro, I've been the leader of bands. I've been the leader of football teams. I didn't need to be a complete cunt to people, and I don't think many athletes have. in order for them to respond, because everybody does not respond to that. And for him to make a blanket statement and basically say, if you can't respond to that, then that means that you haven't won anything. That's bullshit.
But that's his that's his leadership type. That's his personality type. He's not wrong. He's not
How's
wrong.
he not wrong? How
because
you say?
Because they won 6 championships.
So DJ. So because they won that way, him saying that if you
like, who cares if you got the job done?
Yeah, and that just goes into the Stockholm syndrome. We'll talk about that. That's teammates have. But more importantly, my thing is, how can you say just because you won 6 championships that if anybody doesn't agree with this style, it's because they ain't won shit? Oh, really? That's why? That's why I don't agree with. Not because you're being a complete cunt, not because you're being an asshole, but because they ain't won shit. Oh yeah, I mean because Magic ain't won shit and Bird ain't won shit. The worst Bird did was call his teammates sissies because they play like fucking sissies, and he didn't call them out in practice and do that shit. He said it in the media.
We've heard of.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, you don't think that story would have came out by now?
All I know is that I look at it like this. My one link to that era of basketball is a USA Today writer by the name of Dave Dupree, who played with the Celtics. And this was during the preseason, but if my interaction with this guy is anything, I know damn well they said things worse than what you already know right now. And then basically Jordan came up out of that. So Jordan was like the last link to that era where they probably said a lot more. I'm like, hell, Jordan, when he got to the Bulls, like not necessarily like the player treatment in practice, but hell, Bulls players were like doing cocaine and banging prostitutes on road games. I'm like, you got to understand what he came out of to be the last. And then Kobe.
So that gives him the right to be.
No. Then you look at Kobe when he finally had control of that team. You seen what he was doing. So, but that's not saying that what he did was wrong. It produced results. That's all he cared about was results.
If they didn't have the talent,
he didn't care. He was like, "Fuck your feelings. If
they
you're not
didn't have
able
the
to
talent,
meet the expectations, we don't need you."
If they didn't have the talent, it wouldn't have mattered. They were going to come through regardless. It had nothing to do with him being a complete and utter dickhead. Well, he just did that because he could.
No. Because,
yes.
Okay. You look at the teams that they were facing. Like I said, the league was completely different. It was more physical. You were getting beat the fuck up every night. I think if you could handle the physicality in the practice, you can handle the abuse or whatever, then you could handle it against other teams. Because
you're telling me they were getting beat up every night after about 1993, bro?
I'm saying that was the environment of the league. That was what those players experienced back then, day in, day out. Now, there's a different type of beating that players take today, and that's because players today do a lot more. It's not more or less physically. They do a lot more, training that beats them up. But players' personalities are not, for the most part, are not as tough-minded, not as thick-skinned as what players were back in the day. So
thank God for that.
Okay, so Jordan's leadership style would not work.
Yeah, because he's today. A cunt, and somebody will tell him, "Yo, you better step the fuck out of my face."
But again, it would not work today. It worked then.
It worked back then because that was the fucking culture, and it's unfortunate that was the culture. That's the only reason why it worked. It worked because it worked because it was the norm. Big fucking deal. It's no different than somebody's parents. Oh, I walk back and forth in the snow every day. Nobody gives a fuck. Nobody gives a fuck. Like, I'm sorry. It's like he was a complete and utter asshole because he could be. And that's why they say, oh, we were afraid of him. They weren't afraid of him physically. They were afraid of his impact, and they were afraid of his pull that he had, his stroke that he had in the organization. That's what they were scared of.
Well, I just look at it like this. In that era, there was no room to be passive aggressive. Now you're in the era where people can be passive aggressive, so they don't have to necessarily deal with each other like they dealt with each other back then. And like I said, it's just that it's like I said, it's an era difference in basketball. It's a difference of personalities with players now. I'm not saying they're less manly. I'm not going to say that because it's 2020. Everybody expresses their manhood differently, except for Tekashi 6ix9ine. That bitch is a snitch, and he should get stitches, especially for that last thing. Somebody gonna shoot his ass one day. But anyway, I went off on a tangent, but it worked for the Bulls at that point in time, and for Kobe, it worked for the Lakers, but it tailed off. You don't see players like that anymore in the NBA, and that's what works for the league now. I'm not saying today's leadership styles are wrong because they're working in their own way, but I'm like for Jordan to said what he said was expressing his own point of view, not. And it's like you take it or leave it.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is his point of view was ridiculous to shun everybody else because his way worked.
Well,
it's too bad, and could it go off?
Well, it's the fact that he's closed-minded. I'm like, you can, if anything, you can get on him just for that. He's closed-minded. Big deal. It worked. It worked for him. That's the way he knows. That's the only way he knows how. He's not flexible as far as what type of leadership he would show. I'm like, you have more people that are more flexible now. That's really the difference. And to tell you the truth, the only thing you can tell him that it does not work is right now, currently being the owner of the Charlotte Hornets. I don't know what he does as the owner of the Hornets. I don't know if obviously he's not.
What he doesn't do, he doesn't win.
Ain't nobody making no excuses for. Ain't nobody making no excuses.
Well,
it is what it is. You're not gonna change who he is, but his way worked. It may not work for people now, but it's.
But DJ, we're not even debating like.
No. I'm not.
Whether
are you looking at? Are you looking at the chat?
I'm looking, but I'm saying
I'm just going after Daniel Daly because I'm like, yeah, I am. Whatever.
I don't think he's debating whether it worked.
No, he's like, I'm making excuses for Jordan. I'm like, I'm not.
Are you serious right now? You're asking what's the difference between Mike Singletary? Does Mike Singletary call people hoes and bitches in practice?
But he basically said he can't win with Vernon Davis. I mean, he called out Vernon Davis. He sent him to the showers. I thought that worked, though. It
did work, but more importantly, Vernon Davis was selfish, and he held him to that standard because Vernon Davis was the best player on a shitty team. That's why he held him to that standard. So that's different. But he didn't call him a bitch. He didn't call him a fucking a hoe or make that free throw hoe. I laughed at the shit. But the thing is, it's like you can't compare those two, Ravens Nation. You can't compare those two. They're not the same.
One of the greatest middle linebackers of all time. Michael Jordan, one of the greatest basketball players of all time. There's a parallel.
Oh my God. As far as the stature of player, fine. There's a loose relation. Other than that,
I didn't say how close they had to be.
Michael Jordan was a fuck. Look, I laughed at some of the shit he was saying. I was laughing at because it was just funny. But it doesn't mean that I agree with it. It's like, what are
you gotta see who he's talking to though. Sky Burrell was a fan. He was a fan on the team. Come on, you mean to tell me remember when the documentary first started? Burrell was sitting there like, man, can I get a hug? And Jordan's just sitting there cross-armed, like looking at him like, the fuck?
Bro, Jordan. This is the thing. So Jordan, when he was saying that shit, most of it, right? I was like, that's funny. But then I thought about it, and I thought about his level of power in the organization and his level of power just in the league in general. And I'm like, he's using that shit to his advantage. It's not.
It's clear because okay. As far as a competitor, there's no line he doesn't. There's no line that he feels he has to stay behind.
Of course, he made a fucking story up about somebody saying some shit to him.
He's a habitual line stepper. I'm like, you draw a line, he's stepping clear over it. I'm like, shoot, he ended Muggsy Bogues' career by calling him a fucking midget in the middle of the game.
Okay, but that's an opponent. I don't care if he calls Muggsy Bogues a fucking midget.
But here's the thing: it
was a midget.
Everybody could be an enemy at a certain point. And then when it's practice, who's the enemy? The opposing players, even though they're your teammates, they are on the opposing team. I need to destroy them.
Well, I don't believe that.
Like they were the opposing team. I didn't want to lose to them.
I don't believe that his team actually responded to that leadership. I think that they won because they were good enough to win.
No, they responded to that leadership. I'm like, yeah, they did. They responded.
They won because they had the team to win and because he elevated them.
Okay. All right, then let's list the name of players that went on that played after Jordan left, and did they do anything besides Steve Kerr?
The motherfuckers were old shit.
But not even the leaders on the team. Like, okay, let's exclude Scottie Pippen. Dennis Rodman is at the end of his career anyway. So we're talking about Judd Buechler, Bill Winnington, Luke Longley, Tony Kukoc, Steve Kerr, Jason Caffey. Who else we're talking about? Randy Brown.
What were they talking about?
Who else? Jack Haley or
what were they gonna do?
I'm just saying, if they were on other teams after Jordan retired,
they weren't on a team with a player as good as Michael Jordan.
How did they respond to the leadership that they were on the next team?
DJ, they will never know because those teams were shitty compared to the Chicago Bulls. The reason they were is because they didn't have the best player in the league. That's why.
Sounds like they responded to the player.
It sounds like they responded to his play. That's what it sounds like they responded to.
Was a part of it. He led on the court as well. Look, as far as leadership on the court, me personally, I've done the leadership thing playing baseball. It's actually harder to be a leader in baseball than it is in basketball, but your team can be influenced if you push them a certain way. I'm like, trust me, I played shortstop on a church team. I was literally telling players, I was the voice of the coach on the field.
Were you calling them bitches and hoes?
Okay, we were 13 years old on a church team. Come on.
Were you calling them chumps? Were you calling them?
No. We're gonna stop right there because first of all, I was playing on a church team. That wouldn't be right.
Were you calling them chumps and punks?
Hold on, that's my phone responding to whatever. Let me turn this. That's all.
Were you calling them chumps and punks?
There was no need to.
Oh, there was no need to.
See, here's the thing. I never said I was exactly like MJ when it came to how I would dispense my leadership. My words are my words.
Why was there no need to?
I'm also talking about a grown-ass man compared to a 13-year-old.
But why was there no need to?
Okay, first of all, we're a church team.
Mm-hmm.
I was 13, 14, 15 years old as a team captain.
Right.
Second of all, my vocabulary didn't include curse words at the time.
Okay, I said chumps and punks.
Those were curse words.
Oh my. Okay. Were you
at the fact that I was 13, the range of 13 years old to 15 years old? My vocabulary, as you guys can hear, is a lot more education based. I don't need to curse.
The deacon would have grabbed DJ by the. That's funny.
What?
I'm leading them. Yeah, that was funny.
I didn't belong to that church, by the way, just to let you guys know.
It was just a church.
He
was a ringer.
Well, the coach at the time thought I was the best player on the team, but
you're a ringer.
I wasn't a ringer.
You say you didn't belong to church, and you're a ringer.
No, but here's the thing. They didn't have a baseball team until that's actually a different subject because that actually brings up the part about African Americans in baseball and how here in Colombia there was a little racial divide with how African American baseball players are treated even in the little leagues. So that's how that team started. So technically, I wasn't a ringer, and I grew up with like a lot of people that I played with.
Right.
So, but no, I was 13, 15. I'm like the word chumps or whatever didn't come to mind because that was not part of my vocabulary.
Okay, did you chew people out?
Yes, and I chewed them out in my own way.
Which was
Way was to let them know, hey, that play was meant to go there. Next time, just understand that. I'm like, I said it real quick because
sounds like leadership.
Yeah, my form of leadership. It's not going to be everybody's form of. There's different leadership styles.
Bro.
Jordan had his way. Michael Jordan version of leadership, harsh,
is being a cunt,
tyrannic as it was,
cuntish as it was,
results, and people prospered under that, even though they were scared of him. Sometimes that's. I'm like, you may not like it, you may not agree with it, but it worked.
Well, it's not about me liking it because I wasn't there. Because if I was there, I'd have punched that nigga in his face. But I wasn't. So what I'm saying is, what? I wouldn't have what?
Punching nobody in the face.
Okay, all right. You didn't say so.
The way Jordan, and I'm not saying Jordan would beat you in a fight. You probably beat his ass. But what I'm saying,
I'm not even basing it on getting my ass kicked. What I'm saying is, you're not gonna talk to me like that
the next day, and you'd be like, "Then what? You've been."
But what I'm saying is, you're not gonna. But what
Jordan in practice one day.
But what I'm saying is, he ain't gonna talk to me like that. It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna fucking happen.
Steve Kerr felt the same way and punched
him
in his chest.
He did. And Steve Kerr can't fight. So Steve Kerr got the short end of that stick, all right? But I mean, look, I know it's different leadership styles. I don't even have an issue with what Jordan did. I have more so have an issue like, nah, motherfucker, you can't cry now. Don't cry now. Should have been crying back when you were calling niggas bitches and hoes. Like it was a rap video. That's when you should have been crying. Don't cry now because motherfuckers don't agree with it.
You gotta also remember he was drinking, so emotions tend to pour out a lot easier when you're sauced up.
Didn't he try to bully a center and it didn't work out the way he thought it would? Who Longley?
What is he talking about?
He talking about Longley or Cartwright?
The only person I remember that happening to was Parrish.
Yeah, well, I mean, he only played like 2 minutes a game, if that.
It was a white guy in '96.
Longley.
Man,
I guess.
No, what?
Purdue wasn't there, was he?
No, he wasn't there by '96. He must be talking about Longley, Winnington.
That's it, right?
The only other center, and he wasn't white, was Bison Daly. Rest in peace. That guy, he's still missing to this day, but he's obviously been. Him and his wife died. They went on a boating trip and were never seen again. So, yeah. So if you're thinking that's Longley, nah, that actually worked out in Jordan's favor. Remember that scene? He was just like, "I threw you the ball," and he's looking at him like they worked that out. That was worked out.
I mean, I'm
like, that's why I look at Jordan. Like, if you want to make a Star Wars reference, he was a Sith Lord. He operated on anger, hate, all those things that we're growing up to. We grow up and we hear are not nice things to operate. Not a nice way to operate. It's not the way you should operate. But motivation comes in many forms. Anger can be a motivating factor. Revenge lead to a path to mostly the dark side. And I call Jordan is what he is. He is the Sith Lord they were looking for in episode 3. So, and I would look at LeBron as a pure Jedi.
Peter Franny, yes, I did, because Pippen was a bitch for that.
Yeah, I agree. Pippen was a bitch. I
proved,
recognized it when it happened. I was just like, that bitch.
And that proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that motherfucker wasn't no alpha. Period.
And
end of fucking story.
Here's the thing: if Pippen would have taken that shot, he probably would have missed.
People tried to tell me that play proved that he was an alpha. He wanted the ball. Yeah, so Jordan would have sat out. Fuck out of here. First off, you know what Jordan would have did? Let me tell you what Jordan would have did. Jordan would have went out there. First, when he found out he wasn't getting the ball, he would have gave Phil the death stare and said, when this shit backfires, I'm gonna hold this over your head forever. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing he would have done. Then he would have went out on the court. He would have made the best pass possible. The motherfucker that he threw the ball to, Tony Kukoc, might have missed, and then he would have said, like I said, you'll know now not to fucking ever do that again.
Yeah, Pippen chose to sit out.
Pippen chose to sit down.
Take his ball and go home. And then when Bill Cartwright got up there after the game and cried about it, in which I would have punched Pippen in his face.
Right.
It's like, don't ever quit on us. And ultimately, that I think that moment, even though they pushed it to 7 games, if Pippen doesn't sit out, they probably would have won that series. Because remember, they lost it in Game 7. So,
I mean, I don't know, man. I just, it just proves.
Wait a minute. Metal Face Doom says Phil would have never not gave MJ the ball.
He wouldn't. But what I'm saying is, I'm putting Jordan in the situation that Pippen was in, and I'm telling you how a grown man reacts versus a bitch.
Basically.
And that's how Pippen reacted. He acted like a bitch. They couldn't get his way. Phil said it was very simple. And look, honestly, if people want to say that proves that Phil didn't have as much faith in Pippen as he did in Jordan, fine. He shouldn't.
Yeah, because here's another thing. This is another thing we didn't even mention. When Phil caught wind of that, when I forgot who walked over, it was like, Pippen's not going into the game.
He said, fuck him.
Yeah. He wouldn't have said that to Jordan.
Well, I mean.
But Jordan wouldn't have put him in that situation.
That's what I'm saying.
So,
I hate being a hypothetical guy, but let's be honest, man. If that's Jordan, he's not sitting out because he knows there's a possibility he still might end up with the ball. Hell, he throws the ball and it gets deflected, it falls back into his hands, he still has a chance to be the hero.
Yeah,
Pippen didn't think about that.
Because here's the thing. It's like Jordan's on the court. There's going to be 3 sets of eyes on him. So somebody's going to be open. And
did Pippen not think about how crucial it was to be throwing the ball in, too? It's a very important job. People underestimate the job of an inbounds passer. There is such a thing as great inbounds passers.
Yeah, because you're talking about on that court, on that play, it was Kukoc, what was it? Kukoc, Longley, was it Longley? Kukoc, Ron Harper on the team at that point?
He might have been.
Ron Harper, there was I forgot who their replacement shooting guard was. I know he had but either way, the Knicks were looking at this like, oh, we can cover everybody one-on-one. This shouldn't be a problem. Mm-hmm. That's exactly the way the Knicks handled it, and they got burned for it because they went with a guy. The Bulls went with the guy that hit it. Even Kukoc even pointed out, he was like, shoot, I hit game winners in the middle of the season. I can do it.
Yeah.
It just proved that in that moment, Kukoc had more nuts than Pippen did. And Kukoc couldn't play defense, so.
And unfortunately, it shows that people value bullshit bravado more than winning. Because end of the day, he valued him getting the ball more than them winning. It's like, it's crazy to me. It's like the people who bash LeBron for hitting open man in the last second. Well, no, you got to take that. Yeah, he has to take a fucking fadeaway over 3 people because you want him to live up to a bullshit standard. It's like, it's crazy.
Yeah, because I remember that the knock on LeBron in those early championship runs was the final 5 minutes of the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
I personally held him to that standard. I was like, what is he doing? Like, I was looking at everything he was doing. I wasn't just looking at the fact. I didn't even care if he made the best play possible, because that was another debate that I honestly thought was ridiculous. If you can make the best play and it winds up winning you the game, why are we debating this? But what
Right.
he was doing in the final 5 minutes, you can tell he was shook. 5 minutes with 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter in those championship games early on, because it was just like, what is he doing? He's standing at the 3 point line all by himself. He's going to the corner. He's shying away from the moment. He needs to not shy away from the moment. I felt like he wasn't doing it in Cleveland, but then there was that final few games with Cleveland when this team was about to get eliminated, where it seemed like he just would check out. Understandably, why he would check out, but still, it felt like he was quitting on his team. I felt like that was happening in the Dallas series. He get 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. All of a sudden, it's like LeBron was standing at the 3 point line. He's not a 3 point shooter. Why is he not? Why is he not calling for the ball to at least facilitate the next phase of the play?
I
Like, what's
think
going on here? But he cleaned that up as soon as Wade got to him. When Wade got to him, that's when all that got cleared up. And I was actually happy. I was like, okay, good. I can get on LeBron about other shit now.
I feel like LeBron gives his teammates, and this is where it's like a happy medium with the Jordan theory of leadership, where in the past LeBron kind of gave his teammates too many opportunities to get into the flow of the game, to the point where like it became a detriment. Like his unselfishness became a detriment. And unfortunately, I mean, there's been a handful of players that have had that be their undoing. And LeBron, there's certain times he just trusts guys that he shouldn't have, especially in certain situations. I'm not even talking about last second situation. I'm talking about like 5 minutes. It's like,
right.
It's like, bro, like, I'm sorry, there's boosting morale, and then there's putting the ball in the wrong guy's hands in a situation where you shouldn't.
Yeah, because LeBron, in those situations where there's three sets of eyes, to be a facilitator like he is, that's the perfect moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think
versus a Jordan and a Kobe, which they're three sets of eyes, but he's gonna probably take those two will more than likely take those three sets of eyes on and maybe force a shot, but maybe
and
leave
Jordan
it
did
in.
that a lot less after the
Yeah.
triangle was instituted.
And then when you had, and of course, Kobe is in that triangle. That's when you saw Kobe taking shots over 2 or 3 people, and that's where seemed like that was the difference between Jordan and Kobe, was the fact that Kobe just couldn't escape not passing the ball. Like, he just that's wound up being his reputation, even as he ended his career. It's like he didn't want to pass the ball.
Yeah, Kobe.
But you looked at who he eventually had as teammates towards the end of his career. Would you pass them the ball?
Kobe, his thing was he tried to be so much like MJ, but unfortunately, it turned out that he was taking some of the negative aspects of MJ,
which led to some of those videotape moments at practice.
Videotape moments
Kobe
in
is
practice.
literally just going, and honestly, I didn't think Kobe's personality fit.
No, and
nature, because I'm like, it just seems so out of place. Even I don't personally know Kobe, but I really, towards the end, I'm like, even to mimic the death stare, Michael Jordan's death stare and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I'm
Kobe,
like, it's just nothing to me. It's just like, you're a carbon copy. You're not the original. Your death stare is not as authentic as MJ's. You're cursing out players. You're ridiculing players. This is not you're not doing this. The cameras are in the corner of practice, so you trying to showcase your brand of leadership. You're trying to be like MJ, but this is not really what you're doing.
And he was doing it with players that, like, okay, like when he got Pau Gasol and Ron Artest and all those dudes on the team.
Sure, Ron Artest would be the last person you try that shit with.
Of course. So he's very selective about it. But it's just like, yeah, he tried to be a carbon copy, but he was never the original. I'm talking about the player.
And then Kobe never ruled for Iron Fist. It was never his team from the beginning.
No. By that point, it was Phil.
Yeah, because you had okay, all right. So here's the thing: it was Shaq's team. Because remember, you had a different coach when Shaq was dominating, and then it turned into Phil, and then Kobe was the only superstar, was the main superstar, but it was Phil Jackson's team. So I know that probably hurt some Kobe fans that I said that, but that was Phil Jackson's team.
That'll be all right. I'm sorry. Rest in peace, Kobe. But I'm not going to look at you with rose-colored glasses just because you passed in a tragic way. I show respect. But end of the day, he had a lot of but he had a lot of fatal flaws in his game where he wouldn't instill confidence in those players during the season. And then it came time when he needed them, they wouldn't respond.
Yeah, because players like Smush Parker need love too.
I mean, it could have been a perfect time for him to mature those younger players that he had on the team, but instead he tried to alienate them, and they don't respond to that, especially when it's really not your team anyway.
Yeah, because just think, Dwight Howard wouldn't have been banging prostitutes if it was when the fact that Kobe was I'm catching myself right now. I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Oh man.
So,
well,
what's going on in the chat? Kobe
took negative approach because he was trying to prove things individually. Yeah,
I'm have an 81-point game against the Raptors.
Okay. I mean, look at his last game of his career.
And and his teammates basically it was like, all right, just shoot everything. Like
it was like it's gonna be the last time this old nigga come in the locker room, bro. We good. It's gonna be our time next year. You can't tell me the Jazz weren't just moving out of the way for that nigga letting him Anyway,
didn't he hit the game-winning shot in that game?
Essentially, yeah.
Hit the game-winning shot against Ghost on the court because nobody was playing defense that game.
Sorry ass Utah Jazz, they were abysmal here.
I mean, he had like what 60
points on 50 shots.
Okay.
About. Yeah.
Like, they couldn't foul him and make him make free throws to get that much, and at least reduce his shot attempt.
See, here's my thing, right? Just to get on this, I hate doing this because, like I said, he passed away tragically, and I don't want people to think I'm not a Kobe fan. But I gotta get on my Kobe soapbox for a second. My issue with Kobe fans is that what they do is they make excuses for his legacy and they make excuses for his lack of credentials, but the excuses don't hold water because the people that they knock for the same thing just makes it look, it's like, oh, well, he sat on the bench for a year and a half. Whose fault is that? LeBron did it. Oh, well, it's like, come on, stop. KD didn't. Oh, well, I'm like, he wouldn't have sat on the bench if he went to the Hornets. I mean, and then you look at his playoff shortcomings. They always make excuses. Well, he was young. Yeah, LeBron was 18. I feel sorry for him. He was put in that situation every single night.
Shoot, a lot of players in the old NBA that came out of high school. Moses Malone.
Amari Stoudemire came out of high school, had to play a big role right away. KG had to carry the Timberwolves immediately. It happens.
Only person that seemed like it didn't work out for was Kwame Brown.
Right.
And that's the knock. That's really the managerial knock on MJ. I'm like, you're the greatest player of all time, but can't recognize talent if it was standing in front of you. And you chose
Jerry Stackhouse over Rip
Kwame.
Hamilton.
Well, that and he chose Kwame Brown over Pau Gasol.
Yeah.
Just think if the Wizards had Pau Gasol instead.
But I mean, it's like these Kobe apologists, like, keep his career in perspective. He has 5 rings. For 3 of them, he wasn't the best player on the team.
Mm-hmm.
He averaged about 24 points for his career. And you can make all the excuses you want about that. You can talk about him scoring 50 in 4 straight games, but I'm sorry. Your average in your career means a lot because I look at averages. I don't look at totals. LeBron's going to break the total points record. It's a good accomplishment considering the fact he's kind of a pass-first guy. But still, what's your average for your career? Kobe's prime was spent as a loser. And I don't mean that in a demeaning way, but his team wasn't winning. So,
yep, that's pretty much the post Phil Jackson, post Shaquille O'Neal Lakers with Kobe as
Rudy Tomjanovich. Then Phil came back. They still weren't winning. And then Jerry West went and sabotaged his own team that he was playing, that he was the president of basketball operations for, just to see his old team thrive. So, I mean, that's how shit is.
Well, with that being said, we are approaching the end here to episode 142.
Mm-hmm.
That was good. That was... Yeah, I felt like we got a lot out with this episode because...
yeah, we did.
So if you're listening, you can come back in for a little bit. So are there any questions coming from the chat like that we can talk about just for like a split second as we wrap this up? Oh.
Wow.
Yeah, VF did bring up a lot of good points in it. Yeah.
That's funny. VF brought up a lot of good points.
So,
any questions, concerns, anything? What the fuck? Oops.
Oh, what'd you do?
I'm on 2K late tinkering with these fucking sliders and I fuck something up.
Oh boy. That's the one thing about sliders. If you mess something up, it's a bitch.
Because if you save it under the first, like if you save it under the wrong file, it's like, ooh.
I have no thoughts on UFC.
How do y'all? Quick thoughts on UFC. What about it, Peter? What about it?
It was an empty arena pay-per-view, so
damn good one.
Really,
surprisingly.
Yeah, so you really just, you could hear all the punches, you could hear all the people shouting instructions that you could barely hear when there was a crowd there. I was, and this is coming from a person that didn't watch the pay-per-view, but I caught a glimpse of it as far as through a highlight that one knockout that I saw, and it's just like it's pretty much you can play the video game and get that type of experience, even though there's a crowd in there. It feels like an empty arena fight when you play the game. So
Peter, I'll say, the one thing I liked was that a lot of those dumbass fans that go there are like bloodthirsty, and they don't like seeing tactical matches. They just kind of bitch if nobody's getting knocked out. It's not a complete slugfest.
Yeah, so there's that lack of pressure for the combatants to.
And just in general, from a viewer's perspective, I don't want to hear these dumbasses booing because oh my god, it's not a fucking bloodbath.
It's like with the crowd there, it's like if you don't perform a fatality, you ain't shit.
That's
What
crazy.
it feels like.
It's crazy. It makes no sense to me.
Like you didn't finish him.
It's like it doesn't make much sense to me. It just it's like I don't get why people show up to UFC, and I know it's the casual fans, and it's kind of still that thing that a lot of casual fans go and watch because they expect it to be a knockout because they're using 4 ounce gloves. I get it, but there are people who watch UFC all the time, and it was boring. Why was it boring? Because somebody didn't get knocked out. Holy fuck! In the main event, I think Gaethje's ready to face all comers. I mean, fucking Khabib, Connor, whoever. And it was a dominant performance. I don't agree with Dana saying that Ferguson looked a step slow. I think that's taking too much credit away from what Gaethje did. He made Ferguson look like Ferguson usually makes his opponents look. Ferguson was in shape. He was ready. He can say he didn't prepare for a striker like Gaethje. That's fine. But you got your ass whooped. As for the Tony Hawk, I played that a lot when I was a little kid. A lot. So I'm amped about that. Have a little bit to wait, but it's cool. How about you, DJ? How you feel about that?
I'm kind of mixed about it because, me being older, I was like the skate or die type of player. So I enjoyed that, and I felt like Tony Hawk didn't do that for me. But that snowboarding game that came out during the 90s, I forgot the name of it. That if they brought that back, because because we do have a next gen version or current gen version of snowboarding. I forgot the name of it, but Ubisoft did it. Um, I enjoyed that for the time I spent with it, and I may go back to it. If it ever feels hot in the room, I can go and play that and feel feel cold because all the snow and stuff and all the stuff that you can do. It's not just snowboarding. You can ski. I think you can hang glide in that game. So it's a lot, but I'm sticking to my main ones. Like I said, I'm gonna go back to my franchise. I just pitched a combined one hitter with Max Scherzer. I damn near had a no hitter. I hung a curveball in the fifth inning, and the guy laced it in the center field. And Max finished with 113 pitches for the game. Struck out 12, walked 3. I went up. I was going up against the Cubs. I won the game 1-0, and the one run came in the bottom of the first, leadoff home run, Adam Eaton. So the game was 1-0. Beat you, Darvish.
Okay.
And I'm like, minus that home run, almost unhittable. Change up, curveball, it was just impossible to really get a beat on him. I finally knocked him out, I think, in the 6th inning, but still, no one was scoring runs. So.
Creative Park is back. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be cool. It's going to be cool. As long as they keep it pretty much exactly the same.
Okay.
Anything else?
Yeah, has anybody got anything else before we head out? Because we're about 6 minutes till 10. So we got in a good couple hours. I do appreciate everybody coming. I think we got to about 12 people today. So it was a good turnout. Definitely like to get some more. I know on our end, we got to work on it a little bit more. We got to get more advertisement out, hashtags, all that good stuff. So we're gonna go back to the drawing board a little bit just to see how we can accomplish that. Any feedback from you guys would be helpful. And when I mean feedback, because I just recently did a poll and wrapped up around noon today, and I only got one person to comment on it, 7 people to really uh, to vote on it. So I didn't really bring it up. I was gonna use it as a talking point for the slaughter talk because we did talk about rosters a little bit, but unfortunately, I didn't get enough participation, so I was just like, "Fuck it." So, and it really was going to lead into like if you play a game like 2K with the rosters the way it's set up, do you play with the community sliders or do you play with the official? And the one person that did respond and actually gave me feedback, when you use the keyboards to to use the letters to formulate words that put together a sentence. It ends with a period or a question mark or exclamation mark, however you want to end it, with like spaces in between. Um, they actually was like, oh, I use the official rosters, but I edit them, which I could understand because more than likely that's what everyone else is doing. That literally is what everyone else is doing. But like we brought out in that topic, there's an issue with the person who does the rosters in the first place for 2
Yeah, he sucks.
So
whatever your name is, you suck.
oh yeah, and there was another poll I put out back like a while back, and this was kind of like a funny poll, but Bills wound up winning this poll. This one was who would win in a death match, and Bills won. I think out of 4 people that voted, 2 voted for him, 1 voted for me, and 1 voted for VF. And the quote, well, there was a post in the DMs, and then there was a response that wound up being the MVP of that whole poll, because VF was like, "I'm not a fighter." Well, I sent him a GIF that was of Star Wars, and it was like, "Then you will die," because I said it was a death match. It wasn't, and Bill, you thought we were talking wrestling. I was like, no,
Yeah,
fight to the death. I'm like, he doesn't want to fight, then he dies first.
I know, right?
Shoot, I don't play.
Oh man. All right, VF, where you at?
He'll probably chime in, but like, I
Probably over there playing Giga Wing.
Well, we know he ain't playing Mag.
Oh God.
Yeah, because in order to end this, he has to, you may have to call
him. I'll probably text him.
Like we're done here. Yeah, chime in. He probably fell asleep.
Bro, I gotta get some things done, and then he like goes and falls asleep.
Mm-hmm. Smitty Jr.
Oh God.
Oh, there he is. Hold up. So all you gotta do is talk about him. He'll pop up. What y'all niggas say about me?
Smitty used to knock the fuck out in our calls.
You talk about narcolepsy?
I still maintain we should have recorded some of them.
Oh man, this man would be snoring. Like,
some of those calls were legendary.
Rip Van Winkle. Out cold.
Rip Van Winkle.
Hear this man breathing heavy. Be like, dude's still sitting in his chair with the controller in his hands, slowly, like the controller slowly dropping out of his hand.
Y'all can hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear us?
Oh boy.
Oh, you can't hear us.
Then.
He must have been asleep.
All right, hold up.
Oh, he hears the delay because I thought I heard the delay in the background. What they say, when the cat's away, the mice will play. That's basically what this episode was about.
Pretty much.
Oh boy. Well, while we're waiting, just to let you know that my channel on YouTube under my name, Derek Jordan, is sponsored by
Hold on a second.
Energy. The energy drink in itself, it does taste good. It has different assortment of flavors. They have different brands. They have regular energy, and then there's like extreme energy that gives you like double the amount of caffeine. So you just need one of those. If you want 10% off, you can always use my Twitter handle, DJ81. You can go to rogueenergy.com. Order you up some. I'm telling you, it's good.
DJ
Clean energy.
With the shameless plug.
Hey, whatever. But yeah, I was give it a try. Like I said, 10% off. You can't beat that.
As soon as they come out with a flavor like that's called snack a pussy, I'll be right there.
Wow.
All right.
Or snag.
All right, y'all can hear me now?
Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Yeah. I had to back out because what it was, my earpiece, well, my headphones were tied to the actual YouTube channel and not the StreamYard. So when y'all heard me, it was a delay. Well, when I heard y'all, it was a delay because I heard y'all based on the YouTube channel, not the actual live stream. So
yeah, that's what I figured out because I could tell you when you were responding to the delayed audio.
Oh, get that shot in, bitch.
Yeah. That's why I had to back out and come back in. All right, so y'all good, y'all?
Yeah, we're good.
All right, I just found out that Tekken 7 is on Steam for $9, so I bought that.
Man, they won't have a Virtual Fighter 6 anytime soon.
Well, yeah. Well, we need to go riot at Sega for that because Sega been sitting on a whole bunch of IPs. I mean, it was an act of God for them to bring out Streets of Rage 4 because people been wanting that since the damn Sega Saturn days. But I mean, let's not talk about that.
Daniel's like, what's this, a Verizon commercial?
Yeah. All right. What is this? 142?
Yep.
I'm pretty sure you guys did a good job. Probably talk some shit. I ain't worried about that. I know how to. I know how to. I came in
just now.
Yeah, I came in every now and then to listen to what y'all was doing, man. It's all good. Now I had some stuff to do around the house, man. It's all good. So, like I said, 142 first in frame rates. I'm pretty sure this was a success. Again, thanks to everybody who came through, put some questions in the chat. I'm pretty much sure y'all did.
Yeah, we had to hold a gun to their head
Right.
to put some up.
Dang, y'all still not, man.
We got a bunch of Helen Kellers in here.
I mean, I thought it was like, common knowledge that Tuesdays was Q&A, but
apparently they forgot about the memo.
It's cool.
I mean, they showed up. I mean, we appreciate it because we got some loyal people. I see Peter in the chat. I haven't seen him in a while.
Next time, bring some hoes. MJ will like it. Some bitches and some hoes.
Some bitches and some hoes. I see Peter in the chat. Metal Face, Tadal 52. He's here live. Whoa, wait a minute. King David's actually here. He was awake. He was awake. All right.
What's that supposed to mean?
No, he usually sleeps through the day and wake up in the middle of the night. It's like,
is he a vampire? Oh,
yeah, he's like the opposite of everybody, so he don't usually be up like, yeah.
Thank you, Metalface Doom. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You guys did a pretty good job from what I see. All right. If you want to catch us on Thursday, we come back with more topics. Same old. Catch out DJ's content. He's been live streaming lately. Bills, since he has a console, he has no excuse. He needs to start putting something out too.
First off, tell Xbox to get my audio on my videos, and I'll gladly put some shit out. Until then, I guess I'll have to make some YouTube videos.
Yeah, fuck that, man. Make that shit with no sound. I'm just messing with you. Hey, I got a video coming out tomorrow. It's not what you guys think. It is a racing game, but it's not the racing game you guys think. I think it's pretty unique, so I'm gonna put that'll be out later on tomorrow.
Bro, if I had audio for my console, I would probably do that Snow Runner game. I'd probably stream it, like a walkthrough of it. But
right,
yeah. Since we have you just for a little bit longer,
what's up?
Snow Runner game. Have you seen it? Have you?
I mean, I looked at it. I haven't really looked at everything about it. Let me
It's gonna be interesting.
It's pretty Steam, dope,
right?
Man.
Yeah.
Well, PS4 and thing. It's on all of them, I think.
I don't see it on Steam.
Well, it should be on PS4 for sure.
Okay. Well, I don't have my PS4 anymore. So.
Oh yeah. Well, you have your Xbox, right?
And you have YouTube.
Jesus.
Yeah, there you go. I got YouTube. There we go. No, I don't have any of those. I was thinking about getting my PS4 back for Last of Us 2 because I am running through the Last of Us 1 again. So by the time Last of Us 2 come out, I should have my PS4 back. So
I vowed that I'm gonna wait until next gen, but I don't know.
This is The Police. I have that on Steam. I've seen that.
That shit is dope.
I gotta see that on Steam, but the SnowRunner game is not. But I'm gonna look into that. Definitely. I do need to get my PS4 back. I got too many games just sitting out there in limbo. I need to own those games. So I need my Yeah, I need my console back because I got almost 200 games on my PS4. I need those back. I don't want to be sitting there talking about, I'm not getting another console. Like, nah, I need that back. But PS5, there's supposed to be some type of reveal tomorrow. So I guess we'll talk about that on Thursday.
If it happens.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if it happens, because I'm still seeing those are rumors.
Yeah. And there's also a rumor saying that the console was come out in October as well.
Yeah, there's another
rumor
one.
That Colored 19 will also make its presence felt.
Colored 19.
So we'll talk about all that on Thursday, whatever happens, and so we'll just go from there. And thanks everybody again for coming through. And I'm gonna go ahead and close this out and catch us on Twitter, Discord, where all that stuff is. You can find us. All that's in the description. All right.
Oh, Dan Daly. I got you.
Gamer tags. Okay. All right. We'll catch you guys on Thursday. You guys take it easy. Peace.
Peace.
Fuck the Knicks.
Oh,
Hey, my player plays for the Knicks.